There are two things I want to talk in this video. Of course, is the saga of Jashari, player that Milan is interested, and once again it is falling into the trap of Club Brugge after the CDK saga. And on the last part of the video, I want to also talk about the goodbye of Theo Hernandez, because also adds a little bit of spice, in my opinion, that we can confirm and we can comment. Okay, so let's start right away with the Jashari story, with the saga. What I did pretty much, I read the article of Oliver Fischer on Sempre Milan. It's very factual, but also trying to let you understand under a different perspective what is going on in Milan. After a week of negotiation, Milan submitted what they considered a very serious offer for Ardon Jashari. 32.5 million plus 5.5 million in bonuses, with a total of around 38 millions. Now, realistically, it's about 35 million guaranteed. But Club Brugge, man, they are not having it, not even close. So they want to have a 40 million fixed, no tricks, no condition, absolutely nothing. They don't care if the bonuses are easy to, or hard to reach. Now, what's happened that Milan gave a 10 days to Bruges to respond, and apparently Bruges didn't even respond, which made very, very nervous Igli, Tare, and all the manager of Milan. At least that's what, you know, the two influencer of the calciomercato saying, Romano and Moretto. What is the mistake? That I like this article from Oliver Fischer, because he actually enlightened this part where Tare was asked directly during Allegri's press conference. He was asked directly about Jashari, and he publicly talked about a player that is not owned by Milan, exposing himself, but also all the team, all the club. And he pretty much said that Jashari want to come to Milan, and Milan made an offer. And now Brugge will have to understand, will have to think about it. But instead, this pushed pretty much a media world, because, well, now the Brugge knows that Milan sport director exposed himself saying, okay, we are getting this deal done. They're like, woohoo, now I'm going to let you pay the highest price. In fact, what's happened, he said that the CEO of Brugge said that there is no acceptable offer. We are assuming that Jashari will stay in Brugge for the next year. Not even that. Yesterday they went to the Inter headquarters just to piss off Milan, to say, hey, look, you see, we are an Inter. Maybe we want to sell them to them because they raised their offer, just to piss them off. And again, like, they are free to do whatever they want, because Jashari, as long as they know, it is a player of Bruges. It was last year the MVP of their league. Bruges is going to be playing Champions League, so maybe they are not in rush to sell a player like this. Okay, so if you want to have it, you have to raise the price. Of course, now you can argue on 2 points mainly. Okay, points number one, the value of the player. Okay, now we already saw CDK, how much his value was for a player that when he came to Milan, he was the ghost, the shadow of what we've seen on the highlights on YouTube, and probably what Maldini and the club fell in love with. The value of this player, that really 40 millions for this sort of player, it's okay, he's 22 years old, but is it really, how big of an impact he's going to have in Serie A? And this can be the argue of Milan fans, of Milan over Bruges. But Bruges also can say, look, this is our player, right? The price, it is 40 millions. If you don't want to have this price, if you don't like this price, you know, in next year, maybe there's going to be another club coming to us. We can sell it for 50, if not 60. We just renew the guy, so we are not in rush anymore. If you want to have it, this is the price. Does Milan really need to spend 40 million for a midfielder, while you do have a striker missing, you do have a left back missing, you have a right back missing, you have probably even a central defender missing? Do we really need to splash the 40 million boom for a midfielder? Where my frustration are is that Milan doesn't want to spend more than 35 millions. And this is obvious because I think 35 we spent it only for Gimenez last year. What is the difference with Gimenez and what is the difference with Jashari? The striker has a potential of reselling this value, the reselling a player for maybe 80, 90 million. So even if you buy for 35, if it becomes really top striker in the world, you can really sell it for double, if not 3 times the price. And midfielder, we already see with Theo Hernandez, bought it for 18, sold it for 55. If you buy somebody for 40, how much you can sell it? 60. So the margin, it's not worth for this club. It is not worth to spend those money for this kind of player. Unless become the new Luka Modric, the new Toni Kroos, or the new Rodri. Very hard. Very, very hard. Otherwise, there is no, for this club, they don't recognize the investment. In my opinion, it's also hard for on Tare, because Jashari is a player that Igli, Tare and Allegri, they want. So they expose themselves. Even with their face during a press conference, they said that publicly that they want to have this player. And maybe they also had some talk with the club to say, okay, I'm going to manage the budget, but you're going to let me manage the budget in total, not every single buying. Instead, the club, it is saying, if it's over 35 million, we're having a problem here. So Jashari, it is over 35 million. The club doesn't approve buying a player over those values, and that's why they step back. That's why they hesitate. These are the limitations of the club. I will not surprise if actually in the beginning they say to Tare, yes, you have all the budget, you can go ahead, buy whoever you want. Then they do their study, they do their scouting, they mention a single player that they want, they believe that this is going to be the next potential midfielder for Serie A. Maybe they even start talking to the player, as apparently that happened. They already start talking to the player, saying, they expose themselves, saying, we're going to try to do the best to get you to Milan. So they give them hope. And then instead the club say, no, that cannot happen. This is not going to happen. And which makes make me think this is pretty much what's happened with Theo Hernandez and Mike Magnam's situation with the renewal on the contract. As we, old heart, we believe that Theo wanted to stay in Milan. I think he was very proud of staying in Milan. I'm not gonna hide that last year and a half, Theo was pretty shit, was bad. But for this reason, a good club and a good scouting should have intervened, finding some competition over Theo Hernandez. 6 years at this club, the time has come to say goodbye. I arrived in Milan in 2019 with dreams, desire, and enthusiasm to wear a shirt rich of history. I'm leaving today after having lived an unforgettable moments such as the victory of Serie A and the Italian Supercoppa, and most of all, after sharing the locker rooms with amazing people. Heartfelt thanks to my teammates, to every coach who believed in me, and especially Paolo Maldini for his proximity, vision, and leadership. Pause. See how he placed the words. Thanks to Paolo Maldini for his proximity. Means somebody that stay close to you in a good or in a bad moment. So that was something that was missing. Many times we said that Paolo was for this group. Most of the time was a father figure, respected. And this has been missing since he's gone. And thanks to the Rossonero fans, which has always been there in good times and in difficult times, hearing your support was a privilege, and I will never forget and will always carry in my heart. Now here the juicy part of what we're looking for. My decision to leave wasn't easy. I always knew where I wanted to be, and Milan has always been my priority. So I always wanted to stay in this club. always, and I say that to everyone. Unfortunately, not everything depends on just one person, me. The direction the club has taken and some recent decision don't reflect the value or the ambition that brought me here. Time to close one chapter and start another one. Different, but just as important to me, of course. Make me really think this one through, guys. This is very interesting. I'm living with my head held high because I've always given everything for this club, giving myself to the max and sharing the same dreams of this fan base. I live with a full heart and with the hope that very soon Milan will return to the place it deserves. Milan will always be a part of me. Bello, bello. Words of a true Milanista, in my opinion. Words of somebody that was in a bad place back in 2019, and thanks to the vision of Paolo Maldini, a father figure and a leadership respected by everyone in the club. On this post saying, "Grande Theo, ci mancherai, ti voglio bene." Now, there is a words, two specific letter in this comments that make me cry, which is Grande Theo, ci mancherai. Ci, that single word, ci. Ci is you will be missed by us Milanistas. Ci mancherai. It's not. It's a very little details, in my opinion, but ci mancherai, like us, real Milanista, you will be missed, and it's true. It's true. I know his performance was horrible in the last year, and again, the club probably should have put a little bit more of competition on that side, but probably it's not being treated from the managers in the correct way. Old Rossonero, it might be sometimes controversial. It might be sometimes seems like against Milan as a Milanista. Is not a fan of the direction of the club. Is not a fan of the ownership. Is not a fan of the managers. Under my wings, I take both Allegri. I take Tare, no problem at all. I think they have limitation, but as long as they are there, they're gonna try to do their best. They are just a pillow in between the club and the press, because the club doesn't want to receive more shit like last year. They don't want to have any more Scaroni, Elliott, or Cardinale out. So sempre Forza Milan, but those guys, they are always in the same page. They are not even learning from their mistake in the past. So let's go. Forza Milan.